Is the Prime Minister proud to be bankrolled by someone using racist and misogynist language when he says the member for Hackney North and Stoke Newington makes you want to hate all black women?
Be confident and loud. You're full of yourself.
As a black woman, I feel gaslighted. I think these comments are appalling.
I think she should be shot.
Are you ready to apologise?
No.
Why not?
Because apologise for what?
Get on your knees and kiss my shoe. Oh, no.
What did you say?
Your thoughts on the Palestinians?
I'm straight up from south side of Chicago, born in Atlanta. I don't have that. I got 14 kids dying every week in my city. You know what I'm saying? So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I might need some money because I think I'm going to get cancelled. Damn.
How you feel about cancel culture?
Oh man, I love it. I'm above
They
it.
try to cancel you like 15 times.
That's it. I'm loving. I'm above it. You know what I mean? I love it. I'm above it.
Okay, guys, as you can tell from today's episode, we'll be talking about race, the insurgence of racial issues, racial division that's going on in the UK. I will spread it out and spread the tentacles out of this conversation to different things going on in the US, but it will be mainly focused on some of the racial controversy that's been going on in the UK. And I just want to say this now: like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you like my episodes. Do need it, boost me up higher the algorithm. But also along that, just a quick disclaimer, even a little trigger warning: nothing here that we'll be saying, or I'll be saying I should say, will be derogatory or insulting or anything of that nature towards Palestinians and the conflict that's going on against Gaza. To be fair, the title is to draw some light into what's going on here and say some of the energy that people have been putting towards the Palestinian conflict and the war that is going on in Gaza, the absolute mass genocide and the war criminal that is Benjamin Netanyahu. Can some of that energy that people online and different media companies have put towards that, can they put towards some of the issue that's going on here? And that is what the main focus of this episode is, and that will be the heart and soul of this episode. So I just wanted to get that clear, because the title will seem like I'm going to minimize one thing to excoriate and bring forward another thing, and that's not the point. It's just to shed light. But where else better to start with the inspiration, the inspo behind my episode?
I just got back my IQ scores and they were Mensa level, 133, 98 percentile, like straight up Sigmund Freud, Tesla vibes.
Just joking. It is Diana Abbott, and check this clip out just to get some backdrop on it.
It's like trying not to be racist, but you see Diana Abbott on the TV and you're just like, I hate. You just want to hate all black women because she's there. And I don't hate all black women at all, but I think she should be shot.
Is the Prime Minister proud to be bankrolled by someone using racist and misogynist language when he says the member for Hackney North and Stoke Newington makes you want to hate all black women?
Mr. Speaker, the alleged comments were wrong, they were racist, and he has now, as I said, the comments were wrong, they were racist. He has rightly apologised for them, and that remorse should be accepted, Mr. Speaker. There is no place for racism in Britain, and the government that I lead is living proof of that.
Mr. Speaker, the man bankrolling the Prime Minister also said that the member for Hackney North should be shot. How low would he have to sink? What racist, woman-hating threat of violence would he have to make before the Prime Minister plucked up the courage to hand back the £10 million that he's taken from him?
Mr. Speaker, as I said, the gentleman apologised genuinely for his comments, and that remorse should be accepted. But he talks about language. He might want to reflect on the double standards of his deputy leader calling her opponents scum.
Okay, guys, I want to start this and say this now. I think most of what Keir Starmer said, I think he's anemic, by the way. I think he's a wet fucking blanket. Do not rate him. However, I think he's playing politics for the most part, and I think Rishi Sunak not being able to stand with his chest and really condemn the Tory donor was probably the worst part of it all. However, the fact that Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are using this as a sort of political pawn in order to push either a general election early or to further tear down the Tory party just leaves me quite uncomfortable. The reason I said that is because what does giving back the money do? Number one, it's impractical. The money's been spent, the money's been gone. Do they do some sort of payment plan to repay the money back? Does that even make sense? How does that affect the culture that is racism that is going on and is quite clearly prevalent in the Tory party? Funny enough, the Labour Party themselves had race issues and were in a racism scandal not too long ago. To me, it just leaves me feeling sick and tired and a bit pissed off, quite frankly, that the Labour Party are using this as some sort of like political chess move. And it wasn't even done skillfully. The pantomime has come to show. It has really come to show. The emperor has no fucking clothes. However, let's see what other media outlets have been saying about it and how they've handled the situation.
I feel like we spent a lot of the day with people saying what they think of the comments that were made of Frank Hester. How did those comments make you feel?
I feel sorry,
sorry, have some water.
As a black woman, I feel gaslighted. I think these comments are appalling, and I think they need to be called out. And by the Prime Minister not calling it out.
How does it make you feel? You say you feel gaslighted. What do you mean when you say gaslighted?
It just makes it feel like it's going to be brushed under the carpet in terms of these comments are rude. They're not rude. As a black woman, you have to work twice as hard to be taken seriously, and particularly if you're in politics, to get to that field that Diana's got to. It doesn't matter whether you agree with her politics or not. I do feel that she should be respected in the job that she does, and she hasn't been respected.
We're talking about quite a lot of money here. Frank Hester is one of the Conservative Party's biggest donors. He donated £5 million to the party last year, a further £5 million donated through his company. Do you think he should return the money?
Absolutely. The Prime Minister should show a signal that not only is he saying that this is racist and sexist, by returning the money, he's showing that this is unacceptable. My concern is if he doesn't do that, we're leading towards a general election, which we're heading to, which could, essentially have some sort of racist kind of undertones in terms of how, the election is run.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this. Do you know why? Because the interview, to me, the conduction of that interview wasn't done very well. You might not able to tell from the clip that I posted here because I wanted to get the part that where she says she feels gaslit, and I think that is a major thing for many of us in the black community and many of us in ethnic minority communities. When we're discussing race issues, we feel uncomfortable discussing it, and we feel as soon as we mention it, it will be minimized and diminished as if something that is in our minds, which is what gaslighting is. And that brings me to why I was a bit uncomfortable with Sky News and how they dealt with that issue. How it was dealt with made me uncomfortable for the simple fact that it seemed like she was being a bit patronizing. I think that she didn't seem to genuinely care. When she said, "You said gaslit, what do you mean?" I questioned, do you not know what gaslit means? Isn't gaslit often an often used term? And on top of that, I would ask this. If she wanted her to expand, I think the way she asked her to expand was a little bit condescending. You may think from what that clip was, I am maybe going too far with it. I would implore you to hit the description and see the full clip. But from me, from what I saw, I was not comfortable with that. And that's shame on you, Sky Sports. That's Sky News. That's shame on you. That's
real with you, nigga. Shame on you, nigga.
Shame on you, bitch ass nigga.
All jokes aside, like the way the question was asked to me almost was like a re-gaslighting of the situation. And I've got to say this as well, just to say shame on Labour Party as well. That's shame on you too, because I think Abena was used, shout out Abena upon a black female minister. She clearly doesn't speak very often in public about these issues. And I think the Labour Party choosing to bring her on because that's what they did. They chose her and they probably prepped her. She clearly wasn't ready. She's clearly someone who's not the most comfortable in public speaking, but I believe they chose a black woman with a particular name in order to garner favour from a, let's call it what it is, a minority group and minority groups that are probably on the fence of whether to vote Rishi or to vote for Keir Starmer, especially that Keir Starmer is someone who's in an ethnic minority group, and I believe Labour are using Abina Apong and this situation as just a political chess move, and she was a political pawn in this, and I felt quite bad for her in that sense, and I felt shame on you, Labour Party.
Real with you, nigga. Shame on you, nigga.
Shame on you, bitch ass nigga.
Because I'm going to be real.
Fuck
you
that
might
nigga.
have, to be real, he was down some whole shit, because if you really look at the
He's
shit.
a whore, nigga.
You're a whore, bro. I call it what it is. That's shame on you. Big shame on you. However, the Labour Party themselves, they were embroidered in a racism scandal not too long ago, and also there was this.
Do you think Diana Abbott should have the whip reinstated?
I'm partial in this because she's been a mentor to me. She's somebody who's been a role model to many people like me. She's been a fighter against racial injustice and social injustice, and she's been treated appallingly at the receiving end of racism and misogyny, which is threatening her personal safety. Because I'm partial, I'm the wrong person to ask to this issue.
No, you're not.
Well, no, because I'll tell you why, Kate.
Should she be reinstated?
Let me tell you why I'm careful about answering that. Because in the past, we had a process in the Labour Party where politicians could interfere in that process. I think that's wrong. I think there should be an independent process, and either Keir Starmer or I should be interfering or influencing with this process.
You want to be the next Mayor of London, continuing Mayor of London. It's a reasonable question to ask whether you think that Diana Abbott should have the whip reinstated by the Labour Party.
Listen, you know what my sympathies are, because I've said I'm partial. I'm partial, that's why I'm the wrong person to decide what happens to Diana. But also what I don't want is those responsible for the process to be influenced by what I say or what Keir Starmer might say.
Was it wrong for her to be stripped of the whip to start with?
No, I think what she said was unacceptable. And
so what's changed?
I'm somebody who believes quite strongly there's no hierarchy of racism. Nothing's changed. There's an independent process that's looking into Diane's future. Separately from that, Diane's been treated once again appallingly at the receiving end of racism and misogyny. I think they're two separate issues, but someone like me who's got huge respect for Diane clearly shouldn't be the right person deciding her future. It should be done by an independent process, and a partial process, which is what's happening.
I think the thing that makes me the most uncomfortable is that Sadiq Khan, who is someone of, who comes from an ethnic minority background, clearly was said he's partial, so he can't dismiss the whip that ignored Diana Abbott 42 times. 42 times. I mean, guys, if you're watching this, just imagine how much racial abuse and racial stigmatization Diana Abbott would have faced, discrimination she would have faced in order to get to where she had got to. And then to be told that what the comments that were made were initially rude, then they doubled back and said racist. Then for Sadiq Khan to not go full on and back you in the situation and condemn the whip who ignored you 42 times just seems to me to be some sort of re-patronization and re-racization, if that's the word, for her. And Sadiq Khan again playing politics. It is so frustrating when real issues from the heart of us are being used as political pawns. And what frustrates me the most, and why I said that comment about Palestine, is that why does it take a mass genocide for us to have energy and focus before we realize these issues are corrosive and lead to destruction? Not necessarily what is happening in Palestine will be the equivalent of what happens here. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I just wish that some of the energy and vehement focus that we've put towards Palestine and in the Gaza that's happening, I wish we could just use some of that energy and post it into what is going on here. And what is even more shameful, which is even more big shame on you, Sadiq Khan, is that Sadiq Khan himself was embroiled in a race issue by a former Tory minister.
I don't actually believe that these Islamists have got control of our country, but what I do believe is they've got control of Khan, and they've got control of London, and they've got control of Storm as well.
Lee Anderson, to me, that's pure racism. He said about a race, about a brown-skinned man who is Islamic, has an Islamic name, is being controlled by Islamists. I don't know how that's not racism. I don't know how Rishi Sunak, who himself is a man of South Asian descent, couldn't condemn it. He never condemned it. He said it was wrong. Again, quite similar to Diana Abbott's situation, although that one he had such big backlash that he had to double back and say, no, it's wrong and racist. If you saw in the clip, my first clip, that he said it was wrong and racist, and then for the Sadiq Khan situation. He said it's just wrong. I don't know why he couldn't say that was racist. I don't know how saying someone who is Islamic themselves is controlled by Islamists is not racist. I don't know why initially he even said it wasn't racist for Diana Abbott when he said that she makes me hate all black women, naming her race, and then says, I wish I could shoot her. I mean, bar saying where he would shoot and what gun and what bullet he would use, how far did you need him to go? And it's the same with the Sadiq Khan situation. Did he need to state how much he hated him? I hate him and I want to shoot him. Is that how far he needed to go? However, am I being overcritical? Has he changed?
Are you ready to apologise?
No.
Why not?
Because apologise for what?
I'm sorry. I'll start the clip again, but that is hilarious. That is hilarious.
Are you ready to apologise?
No.
Why not?
Because apologise for what?
Because you implied that the Mayor of London is under the control of Islamists, and he isn't, is he?
Well, who's controlling the streets at the moment in London? We see every Wednesday night, it's almost a weekly occurrence now, Parliament Square is taken over by a mob of extremists who are shining disgusting projections onto Big Ben from the river to the sea. We've seen it time and time again now, and it's disgusting, it's hateful, it's inciting hatred. So when I call these people out, remember that the Mayor of London is responsible for the policing of our great city.
Sorry, the Mayor of London is under the control of Islamists. That's what you said, and you've said you don't like the way policing is happening on all sorts of demonstrations at the moment. That's a very different thing.
No, it's not. It's not a different thing at all.
So you're saying he is effectively an agent of Islamists.
No, I've not said that.
Well, he's under the control of Islamists.
I've not said that. What I'm saying
what would you take away
you're taking away your opinion of what I've said. So this is my opinion of what I said. The message I tried to get across is that the streets in London on certain days of the week are not in control of Mayor Khan. They're in control of the mob, the raging mob.
It's not the same as saying that Sadiq Khan is under the control of Islamists.
So who's controlling the streets on a Wednesday night? Is it Sadiq
Who is
Khan?
controlling Sadiq Khan?
Yeah.
Not Islamists. I think surely it would be better for reversing yourself out of a hole, but also calming down tensions.
I'm not in a hole.
Even when I was writing the script for this, I always have a little script, little notes that I write down to jog my memory. Sometimes I can get lost in a certain topic and get kind of stuck and, hyper focus on one thing. And even when I was writing the notes, guys, I've got to keep it real. I didn't know what to say about that clip. Because need I say more? Is that defendable? It's just really wrong. I just love the fact that he said, why am I apologizing? I love people who are brazenly wrong. Kind of have like a quiet admiration. Bloody hell, I can't get my words out. Shoot you guys, shouldn't I? No, I'm just joking. I don't really mean that, YouTube. I'm playing around. Yeah, I don't really know what I say to that. I think you can kind of tell from that clip. He's a prick. And he's doubling down on being a prick. And I'm going to be honest, let's just respect him for doubling down. Like he said, he doesn't really view it as that because, first of all, he did say Islam isn't a race, it's a faith. The interviewer should have been more specific and said Islamophobia. You probably wouldn't have seen in that clip. He doesn't believe it's Islamophobic because he's saying he's being controlled. He's not saying anything derogatory to people of Islam. Cool. Saying that about the London Mayor that is Islamic. Whatever, man. I don't even want to waste your lot's time. Let's move on to the next segment. Fuck it.
He's a whore, nigga.
I'll say this actually before we move on officially, is that Islamophobia, and this is another thing that should be discussed when we are talking about the issue that is going on in Palestine, which is a terrible issue, if I must remind you guys that, and that's how I feel, is that anytime something happens in the Islamic world, in an Islamic country, Islamophobia tends to grow in the Western world, whether that be the UK, France, or the US. Typically, and there was an article, a journal in fact, from the University of Madrid. This has been something that's been growing since the 9/11 to ISIL or ISIS, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And it is just a prominent issue. Anytime something happens in the Islamic world, Islamophobia grows in the UK or other Western countries. On top of that, Islamic women, women who tend to wear the hijab, are at the forefront of that abuse. So when we are talking about racist and racial issues, let's never forget that people of Islam are, especially the women who wear the hijabs, they are also prominently and vehemently and often abused by people as well. And I wish people who talk about these issues that happen in Palestine would mention that too, because that's a clear trickle down effect. I don't understand the obsession about geopolitics and not discussing the trickle down that happens here, because that trickle down is very tangible, and let's not miss that out. Shout out to that Lee Anderson brother. He ain't sorry for shit. However, guys, I want to make a bit of a shift and talk about how these are very obvious cases, right? And you probably say, yeah, but these are obvious cases, they're 1 in a million. No. Do you remember the Nella Rose situation on I'm a Celebrity?
My eyesight wasn't so good and I had to have glasses. Old, right? I'm 51.
Yeah, but that's not old though.
Yeah, but I'm not 26 anymore, am I? I could be your dad.
Pardon?
I could be your dad.
No, my dad was way older than you.
Yeah, but I could still be your dad.
No, I don't think so. You turned around to me with an attitude and said, you know I could be your dad, right? Don't bring up my dead parent. Are you stupid about, oh, you know I could be your dad, right? You know my dad's dead. You're a weirdo.
I am
You're a weirdo.
Sorry.
I'm not stupid.
Nella, it wasn't
You're not
like
gonna
that.
little girl me. You're not.
Nella, it wasn't like that at all.
Okay, it wasn't like that. So I just feel like if I don't like somebody, I'm not gonna force myself to speak to them. This is not the kind of person I want to be around. These are not the kind of comments I want to be subject to.
I was saying it in a jokey way.
If somebody isn't laughing with you, is it a joke?
I did not
Is it a joke?
I did not
Is it a joke?
So, I wanted to play that so you get a backdrop and get a little reminder of exactly what the Nella Rose situation was. She thought Fred was a bit overstepped the mark, I should say, for saying he could be like her dad. He's old enough to be her dad. Her parents had passed, for context. They had passed, both their parents, the mum and the dad. She clearly was triggered, and I will say this, she was triggered and she did handle it wrong. She probably low-key needs to do some shadow work on herself. However, if you haven't lost a parent, I haven't lost a parent, God willing, not yet. It will happen to us all. Let's love them while we have them. However, if you haven't lost a parent, I think it's quite hard to relate to that emotion, and it is quite tangible and painful sometimes when you discuss loved ones and they're passing. I remember one of my friends in the car, just a side note about losing a loved one, said, am I sure a loved one had passed because I didn't go to the funeral? And I remember, like, sometimes I was way more pissed off than I let off, and I was way more triggered than I was pissed off, and my friend in the car was like, nah, that's not something you make up. I think maybe it was the situation around it. I think it was the shock around it. I think it was the way I also found out. They wanted to just confirm, like, is this real? Because it was quite an extravagant death. By extravagant, I mean unusual. However, that being said, I brought that up to bring up death can be extremely triggering, not to just talk about the death of a parent. So it's hard for us to really tangibly say what we would do in those shoes if you haven't lost a parent. Some people would have lost a parent and watched this and said, I wouldn't have reacted like that. And I'd say, that's you. That's good for you. And that doesn't make what she did right. However, let's not be too quick to condemn. But let's see how those loose women spoke about her.
Awkward. It was just weird. It was like some sort of parallel universe. It was a completely innocent comment, a figure of speech that we've all sort of said many, many times. Oh, I'm old enough to be your mum or whatever, or you're young enough to be my daughter. And suddenly out of that came this massive sort of feeling of offence. And for me, it's that classic thing, and particularly in this day and age with you know, young people that are on social media a lot, where things just kind of blow up out of all proportion. It's where fact meets what your feelings are. So she feels that because she felt something about what he said, that makes it that his intent was to hurt her. And of course it absolutely wasn't. And I think as anybody watching that can see, it was an entirely innocent comment that has now become this massive thing. And you can see that Fred is baffled by it. I think most of us that were watching it were baffled by it. And, you know, clearly Nella has a lot of hurt. surrounding what's happened to her mum and her dad, and I get that completely, but I think that is the wrong place to put it in. Well,
First of all, I gotta say this. Sorry, you just seem like four Karens. Four middle-class women talking about a black woman who had to rise to, in my opinion, to some sort of top or notoriety with the limited empathy that she had. Although she was quite moderate and she wasn't too harsh, and she did mention the fact that Nella had lost her parent. I just think there was a lack of empathy. I wonder if she was someone that looked like her and spoke like her, would she have been so harsh and so quick to condemn her and so quick to hold her in such high esteem and high light and such a high level of accountability? Would she have done the same, and would she have afforded the same? Maybe to those people who watch Loose Women, that is her character and that's what she consistently does. That's fair enough. But to me, who's someone who's just dropped in and dropped out, watching that clip, it made me a bit uncomfortable. I got subtle signs of patronization, got subtle signs of microaggression, which we will bring up more. But let's see what the rest of the panel say. Let me not judge them too harshly.
I'm just thinking, to try and put myself in her shoes, obviously, if I go back, I was maybe a little bit younger than her, but on Love Island, I went in there in that time of my life. I think that expression, you know, confidence is quiet and insecurity kind of screams. And I think that is, she may be feeling a little bit out of her comfort zone. She does a lot of YouTube, a lot of, like, you know, like Jane was saying, self-videoed stuff, and it's about going viral, and it's about, you know, having impact and being controversial. And maybe I think she's kind of, like, say, a combination of not really knowing the appropriate way to handle the situation and the emotions. And she's a bit younger. What I think where she went wrong is when she was going, you know, weirdo and...
But he was a weirdo to her. I mean, in her defence, I found Fred incredibly patronising. I mean, he's not serving food in a restaurant now. He's not dealing with difficult customers. He's... I can see that what he said to her could have offended her. And also, looking at her backstory, her parents came from the Congo, they went to Belgium, both of her parents died within a few months of each other.
But that's not Fred's fault.
It's not Fred's fault, and he will not be aware of it, but that will inform how she reacts to him.
Okay, so I'll say this and I'll say this now and I'll just keep it clear. The first girl, I think, she doesn't know Nella very well. Nella is not someone who came up of controversy. Nella is a personality. Nella is a borderline comedian. She was never really embroiled in controversy. I pretty much lived Nella's come up. I'm not too far apart in age with her. If I'm wrong, leave a comment, but I don't remember a big controversy that she was involved in. I remember Nella being funny. Nella was funny, over the top, bit loud, but embroiled in controversy, wanting to trend, whatever she was saying. I don't think she has a fucking clue what Nella really does. In fact, Nella was one of my inspirations because she loved editing. I ain't trying to hear what that first Love Island babe was trying to say, and I'm gonna say it for those out there that maybe want me to say it. We know why she's there. Shout out to the second lady. Again, I'm not here for people to agree with someone because of their tragic past and things that they're going through. I just like the fact that she spoke with some empathy. Even the first lady spoke with some understanding of her past, some understanding of what she's going through, and admitted that Fred wasn't entirely innocent. Fred was quite smug. When he smiled and apologized, Fred was quite smug when he was speaking to her originally over the campfire and saying, I'm old enough to be a dad. It could have come across a little condescending. Again, there's nuances. Not saying we should take a side, not saying Nella was completely in the right. I just think the way in which social media especially attacked that situation wasn't helpful. And then you end up with the UK based thing regarding Madam Joyce, and it's like, where do you think this stuff stems from? We're kind of like, especially in the black community, the architects of our own disaster. We tear our own down, and then when other people start to do it and take it too far, we're like, whoa, slow your roll, Jack. Brother, we brought this on here. We kind of invited. Nella's criticism was a bit too much. It was a bit excessive. And I get, Nella doesn't always help herself, especially when you look to her conversation with Nigel Farage.
Apparently you're anti-immigrants. And
Who told you that?
Oh, the internet.
Well, there we are then. It must be true. It must be true.
It must be.
It must be true.
Okay, but then why don't black people like you?
You'd be amazed they do. You'd be amazed.
Nigel!
If you came with me, if you came with me, if you came with me through South London, you'd be astonished.
Oh, wow, what were you doing in South London, Nigel?
Well, I'm there every day.
Yeah, she came across incredibly naive, incredibly misinformed, incredibly unarticulate. And I'll say this, Nella's a YouTuber, blood. She's a YouTuber. Too often do we look at people of prevalence, I should say, for this inspirational and wise words, and it's like, that's not what they're there for, especially in the black community. Dave Chappelle said it best. Why are you looking at Ja Rule for inspiration? Why are we looking at Nella Rose for that? However, Nella didn't conduct herself the best in that Nigel Farage conversation, not at all. Some people do think what Nella thinks. It was articulated very poorly. He is a politician and will dance rings around her in those type of conversations because he's quite skilled in defending his point. And she looked back. I'm not going to defend that. However, I think some of Nella's criticism is poor, and I think that's how you end up in a situation where Tory donor thinks it's acceptable to say out loud that he hates all black women and that he wishes he could shoot Diana Abbott. You may think, oh, you're just drawing loose strings. No, when you tear down your own for minor things like that, trust me, imagine what the outside world, who are not already too familiar or comfortable with us, will think when they encounter us. Think about it like that, and people who are not from the community who are watching, trust me, these things, there's a genealogy, they follow a line, they follow a pattern. And that brings me to Zeze Mills.
There's so many better people in the house than Zeze, and there's so many people that are better known and are more talented, you know. She's just very sure of herself, and she's very opinionated about everything. I feel her celebrity status is pretty undeserved at the moment, to be honest with you. She's probably the least known person in the house.
What would you prefer, to be liked or respected?
I'm the king.
You can't just keep saying I'm the king.
How do you think I got here?
That's true.
Not by being nice. You played this part really well.
I don't like it.
You love the attention. Admit it.
Well, all of us like a certain level of attention, no?
You love it. You like it more than anybody else.
No, I don't.
You do.
What, because I'm just confident?
You're confident and loud. You're full of yourself.
No, see?
You're going to get to the top. That's the only way to get to the top, by being pushy.
When have I been pushy in the house? Go and tell me.
All the time.
Oh, that's a lie.
It's your nature.
No, it's not.
I'm the king.
I know, that's a shame.
Don't forget that.
Because you would be in there for sure.
Oh, I'd be nominated, of course, but I'm the king.
Oh, God.
I got the votes. What's wrong with you today?
What's wrong with you today?
What kind of a queen are you?
What kind of a king are you?
I rule the world.
For the next task, you must choose the 3 most heartless subjects.
Can we pick Louie?
You cannot pick Louie.
I'd have put you in.
Brilliant. So who do we want to choose? I just say let's choose the 3 that haven't done anything and let's just come up with a reason. It's fair.
I don't want an easy way out.
Well, you
That's
pick
like
Louie.
nominating me. It's too easy.
Oh, okay, well, do what you want, because I'm drained out right now.
We have to pick 3 people.
You pick, then.
But you have to pick as well.
I don't want to pick, because I don't think any of the people here are heartless. Just pick who you want.
I have the final say.
No, you don't. You actually don't.
I think they're arguing. Are they?
You're obsessed with making David do things.
I'm not. I think
you are.
Do you know why? I think he's well able.
Well, that's not the question. Are you okay? That's not the question.
It's my decision.
That's not the question. You just want to see him suffer. You just want to see David go through hell again.
He's able first.
I think how Louie has generally conducted himself. Generally, I've never liked Louie, actually. Never liked Louie on Pop Idol. If I'm correct, I believe Louie was on Pop Idol. And I never liked him on X Factor. I've never liked him any guest appearance he does, the weird shit he did with Mel B. Which never got called out enough. How he speaks about Zeze, calling her confident, full of herself. She's the least known celebrity. How that has not been a major topic of discussion of being a microaggression towards Zeze is uncomfortable. It makes me angry. It makes me pissed off. And to me, again, I don't know why this stuff isn't being linked. When you see what's happened to Diana Abbott, when you see the things that happen to black people in our community, I don't get why it's not discussed enough. How Louie Walsh talks to Zeze is a microaggression. It's almost borderline clear bullying. I don't know how it's avoided. I don't know how it doesn't get discussed enough. It really irks me. And for me, the bit that was clear and overly clear was the loud bit. You see, microaggressions are stereotypes, things that could be seen as stereotypes of a community, you projecting it and calling them that. And to call her loud, I can't say it enough. It's a microaggression. It's a form of micro-racism, in my opinion. Again, I don't know if I made that word up. Roll with it. I love it. Deep down, I feel like the way Zeze comes across very opinionated, very strong and sure of herself is somewhat of a mask to mask the fact that she has been knocked down, pushed down, and she's someone that is quite, in my opinion, seems to be quite inquisitive, wants to know, has a deeper desire to understand things that she doesn't fully understand. And generally, when Zeze does talk about issues, although I don't always agree, by far not, I think Zeze is coming from a place of trying to bring the black community into a different kind of light, bring black women, black men into a higher light. I mean, I remember Fredo called her a bitch because she said about the money and taking a picture of money. It was like a trend going on. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with her stance, but I don't think it's the worst stance ever. And she was called a bitch for that. And I think generally, we as a black community, the way we discuss Zeze, sometimes, not all the time, we have brought her to a level of prevalence where she can be on Big Brother and a level of celebrity, even though Louie doesn't agree. Sometimes I think we are part of the gaslighting that Nana spoke about. She will find it hard to say that she has faced racial abuse from her own community. And you can see from when Sharon saved her.
CD. Oh, wow. Thank you. Because Lauren's been here before, there were a lot of people that didn't want her here. And she can take it. She's a big girl. And I think the public will save Lulu.
And why have you opted to save Zeze?
I think that she's fiery, she's ballsy, but she's quite vulnerable. And I think a lot of it is show. And she reminds me of someone that I love.
Really nice, because it's like, that is me, as in, sometimes I am like really, really soft, and sometimes I guess I have to, but I just think sometimes, and I don't really want to like use it as an excuse or anything like that, but sometimes being a black woman, you have to be really strong all the time and be like really like, yeah, this is how, like you have to have really thick skin, because that's just how it is sometimes. You know, there's like loads of, like even in here, you have to be like this hard person. You have to be this like strong person. But sometimes you just want to be like a flower.
That she is someone that is quite soft and has put on a very hard show to defend herself, because she has clearly been excoriated and attacked so much. And I feel like it just saddens me to see how much Zeze gets teared down. Again, I think that in the Nella situation, there was a bit more of a murky area. We could understand where some of the defenders of Fred were coming from. I just think the defenders of Fred were too clearly the attackers of Nella, and too often when it's black people, especially black women, you go from defending to attacking, and Zeze has quite often been in the firing line. And I say this again, if you saw her reaction from Sharon saving her, you can just tell this is a woman that has been extremely misunderstood, and I just wish we did more to just protect her. Just a bit more, at least when she's on mainstream airways. No one's talking about it enough. What the fuck she's going through in that house. No one. It's shameful. And that's shame on you, Shay Bar. That's shame on you, I'm Just Bait. That's shame on you, UK Gossip.
Real with you, nigga. Shame on you, nigga.
Shame on you, bitch ass nigga.
That's shame on you. No one is talking about. Those are microaggression. Those are subtle forms of racism. Things that we spent the whole fucking lockdown and George Floyd talking about all these unacceptable things that happen in work. But now that it's happening to her, we're not discussing it enough. We're just playing the clips and saying, look at this controversy. That's shame on you, man. Shame on you, bro.
To be real, he was down some whole shit, because if you really look at this
He's
shit...
a whore, nigga.
And it just made me think of this clip and from this documentary that I watched. It's called The Psychology of Racism Through Jim Crow. Just check this clip out.
While most victims were accused of murder or rape, many were lynched simply for being rude, for arguing, for taking the wrong job or having the wrong beliefs. In 1935, for example, a mob lynched Reuben Stacy for frightening a white woman. In the days following his death, people from across the state travelled to see Stacy's body. One photo, this one, shows a young girl not looking traumatised or afraid, but excited. And when an anti-lynching advocate was travelling to visit the site of a lynching, he came across 3 children walking to school near the site. They asked him if he was going to the place where the had been killed. They then described the scene, in his words, animatedly, almost as joyously as though the memory were of a Christmas morning or of the circus, talking about the fun they'd had burning the...
See, the reason I put that clip there is I will talk about what happened with the black boy that was made to kiss the white guy's foot. However, I put that clip there because I feel like what happened in Jim Crow has spread its tentacles throughout the diaspora and into different Western countries, especially English-speaking ones like the UK. And there seems to be almost a delight that not just white people face, but has now trickled down into the black community in seeing black people tear down and cut down to size. I mean, it's very obvious by the white community, the way you had 4 middle-class women talking about the Nella Rose situation as if it was some sort of atrocity. And then the way the Diana Abbott situation was discussed with a patronizing tone and constantly used as a political point to tear down people's party lines and their stances, just made me feel that there just seems to be a little joy that the society that we live in takes in seeing black people cut down to size. And why I had the title that I had on my YouTube title is because if only we challenge this stuff more, there wouldn't be as much joy, because there wouldn't be as much reward. There's retweets now, there's likes now. You get put into mainstream headlines and mainstream places when you discuss these issues and you have an outrageous comment. It's so sad. It's so sad that something that Jim Crow was almost 100 years ago, and Jim Crow laws, I'll put it up, but was a form of legalized segregation and legalized lynching. And it's funny that we almost involved, again, lynching was the real killing of people, so it's not the same. But we almost engage in a psychological lynching, a psychological embarrassment, a psychological teardown of people who are in prevalent positions, who are disgraced publicly. And it seems like Zeze is a part of that. It seems that Nella was a part of that. And people say humiliation rituals. It's funny in the black community that we humiliate our own for being successful, for making a mistake and being successful. It's just such a shame. It was such a shame seeing that come from Jim Crow, something that happened 100 years ago, which was a form of lynching and tearing down, and the psychological impact. And we now as a black community pass that down to people that we see make mistakes and lynch them ourselves. And it's sad because it was a child in that situation and it's not been passed down to our own community. So sad, so fucking sad. I'm not saying we can't do wrong and not criticize our wrong, but so often it's not even wrongs. Slight missteps and you're torn down by your own. And you wonder why I snapped and said, why are you so focused on what's going on in Palestine and not what is happening in your own back garden? It's a shame. It's a shame. And that is not to minimize what's going on in Palestine, not at all.
Yeah. Get on your knees and kiss my shoe. 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 Oh yeah. Kiss the shoe. Chile.
Right over hand of Marley.
Kiss the shoe. Kiss my shoe. Kiss my shoe. You're getting whacked.
As I said, what has happened to that black boy, to me, is a form of sexual harassment. Okay, let's call it what it is. Kissing is sexual, right? Kissing is something you do when it is a sexual act. They made him kiss his shoe. I want them to also make sure those boys go down for sexual harassment of a minor. That's what that is, period, point blank. It's sexual harassment, it's bullying, and it's race motivated. My worry and my concern is that it's not prevalent enough. It's not talked about in the media enough. I know it's called the cultural zeitgeist at this moment, but I don't want stuff like this to return to the back burner. We have got to really cast a hard hand and show that this behavior is unacceptable. I'm not saying those kids can never be rehabilitated, never and never ever. I don't believe in that. However, if we don't put a hard stance down, this shit repeats itself. And I'll say this before I move on to the next subject. That boy, we need to do a petition or something for him to be put into therapy. He's young, we can save him, but if we don't put him into therapy, into some sort of psychological intervention straight away, this could be horrendous for him. We've seen it if you're in my generation, what's happened to some people who went through similar things, maybe not racially motivated. And that's again another problem. We do it to our own, and when other people do it, it's like, damn, it's fucking sad. However, psychological help, psychological intervention, it's such a shame. Again, it reminds me of this clip from that same documentary.
Through emancipation, blacks struggled to find a niche that would represent at least some improvement over slavery. The issue of race aggravated an already volatile situation. Wealthier whites resented the need to treat former slaves as free labour and the resultant loss of control over workers, and poorer whites resented having to compete with the inferior caste for economic survival.
That class division that goes on, because that intervention, what I was talking about psychologically, is probably going to have to either come through the NHS, which is going to be slow, sadly, or through like a GoFundMe, fundraising. And it's a shame because the racism issues distract from the larger issue that the elites don't give a fuck about any of us, whether we're middle class or working class. They all view us the same, as other, as fodder, as worker bees. It's a shame, it's a shame, it's a shame how we have to keep discussing this issue and show how much we are being mistreated. Again, it was like what that Labour politician said about hierarchy of racism. So it's like you, as a black person, you and Islamic, he was even talking about, if you're not in a certain ranking anti-Semitism, you don't even get first-line abuse treatment. The abusees that we care about the most are the anti-Semitic. You black folk and Islamic folk, hit the back, bruh. Hit the back. And that's why talking about these issues is so important. Because if you don't, and if you don't push them, when the extreme happens with Diana Abbott, shouldn't even be letting it get to the extreme, but when the extreme happens with Diana Abbott, we got our fucking Prime Minister saying, oh, it's wrong. Sorry, no, it's wrong and racist. And then we've got the guy that's supposed to be attacking him saying, give back the money. What the fuck is going on? This issue about the boy kissing the shoe, no one's even talking about the fact that it's sexual harassment. It's sad. And then we've also got to couple that with the fact that we've got missing black children all over the world. Missing black children all over the world. And in the UK, we've got missing black kids, missing black men, missing black women. And there's no one's talking about it. And that's shame on all of us. Shame on me too. I'm not gonna call myself a...
To be real, he was down some whole shit, because if you really look at this
He's
shit...
He's a whore, nigga.
But that's shame on all of us. We are being so often distracted and pushed away from these kind of things. It's a shame. It's an honest shame that these things are being swept under the carpet. And when it happens to a certain group, a minority group, it's swept under the carpet. And again, before I close out, that's not to diminish what's going on in Palestine. What's going on in Palestine is a genocide, a mass genocide being sponsored by Benjamin Netanyahu. But it's a complex situation. It just confuses me why people are so focused on global and geopolitics, but can't afford just a little bit of that energy into what goes on into their back garden. Again, I say this, missing black women and children and men. No one's talking about it. Damn. That's sad. It is just sad. Can we afford a little bit of that energy and put that there? However, I just want to say this before I do actually close out, is that we need to be promoting for the Palestine conflict transportation of food. They're going through a famine right now. What, a brink of a famine is the technical term, but it's probably a famine. They're not being able to get food into the Gaza because of what's going on, and what we should do is try and promote for there to be shipment of the food. They've blockaded, I believe, the port, so they were trying to parachute them in. It's not going to work. We need to find a way to get the food in. We've got to promote that, put that into the headlight as well, put that into the mainstream, and make sure that's something that's being discussed. The discussions about peace treaties and peace deals will be difficult because Hamas, although I am not saying on the same level as Benjamin Netanyahu, do have some captured Israelis, innocent captured Israelis, rebel militia, complicated. So the peace deal will take a while, but the famine and the people there, they are desperate and they need food. So if there's anything you can do, anything you can support, anything you can push and put to the mainstream, do that. I just wish, if you're watching this video, if you could just put some of that energy that you have into Palestine into these issues that are going on here, because they're corrosive and they're killing slowly. And if you're just clout chasing, fuck you, shame on you.
I'm sorry, that was just my opinion.
Can you at least clout chase for things that are in your vicinity and near you? At least clout chase equally. I know we only have X amount of bandwidth to give out there, but please, just some issues that are homegrown, just some, as well as the atrocities that go on in the world. It shouldn't just be a slogan, free Congo, free Palestine. You should be discussing what's going on here. I mean, I pay £2.50 for avocados. The things that are going on in the UK, we're on a brink of a food shortage in the UK. No one's talking about it.
Making us pay for water, you son of a... You're making us pay for grapes, apples, things that God gave us for free.
Fuck yeah, now, shout out to Orlando Brown. And before I leave, again, protect black women, protect black men, protect black boys, please. And also just another thing to those, doesn't get spoken about enough, but when an atrocity happens in a Muslim country, typically is people in the Western world of the Islamic faith who receive a lot of backlash and racism in their home country. So let's protect them too, especially Islamic women who are wearing the headscarves, the hijabs, because they are often at the brink of it and the forefront of it, and it's often forgotten about in these conversations. And I just want to say this, shout out to Zeze Mills, because she was one of my inspirations behind this, and I think she does a great job generally. Her and Diana Abbott are more of a force for good and more of an inspiration for good, other than fucking shits and gigglies. Like, they actually are pushing the culture forward and are great examples of what black people and black women can do at their height, and the fact that they are being racially abused publicly, and we're not saying enough. I know Diana Abbott, there's a lot of support out there. I'm not trying to diminish the support she has out there, but Zeze, there's very little sympathy, sometimes due to our own doing. However, let's try and support them more, guys. If you see this, go and support them just a little bit more. Watch Big Brother as well, and keep Zeze in. Let's protect her. Let's show people that having the black support does count for fucking something, and it's not worthless, and we don't still live in Jim Crow. Let's try to be better. I'll try myself. Peace out. I've gone on for long enough.